Can you see it? Oh, you can't see it. My mug says hello there. And it's time for a coffee chat, although in this case I totally forgot, and I actually have chamomile tea because it's kind of late. The caffeine will keep me up, and I want to go to bed after I record this. So it's time for our weekly coffee chat. And what we're going to talk about this week is budgeting versus forecast. Budgeting versus forecasting.
Hi everybody, my name is Wendy, and this is my channel, Budget Pumpkin. I'm on a journey to becoming debt-free, and I'm going to do that by making better financial decisions, one baby step at a time. On this channel, we're going to talk about things like budgeting, cash stuffing, planning, dealing with debt, and some savings challenges. If you'd like to follow along, please subscribe, like, and make a comment in the video. Thanks for being here.
Budgeting versus forecasting. Okay, so I'm going to write with this Sharpie this week. So hopefully, move this stuff out of the way. Hopefully you'll be able to see what we're talking about here. So, a budget is a plan for your money. So the stuff that we talk about. So, what is a budget? Okay, well, it is a plan for your money. Meaning, you're just kind of deciding what you're going to do with it. Now, it can be specific or it can be theoretical, right? So when you budget and you don't know the money you're going to be making, so say, let's see here, get these out of the way from my last video. So for the month of January, I don't have all of my income for the month of January. I have a budget. I would consider this a forecast. I don't know what I'm going to bring in exactly, and I don't know how to allocate that money to spend it, which is why I want to be a month ahead, because then once I'm a month ahead, when I get and make this monthly budget, it will no longer be a forecast. It will be actually, I know what we made and I know what we can spend. So this is a forecasted budget. This paycheck cash flow worksheet is an actual budget. I know exactly what I brought in on these dates, right? On this date. So this happens to be our paycheck cash flow worksheet from December 29th. I know what we made, what we brought in, and I know exactly how I've allocated those funds out to our budget. And we came up with a zero-based budget. Our expenses, and I lined up our expenses with our income so that every penny was accounted for. So when you're in a situation where you're trying to pay off debt, you're watching your pennies, it's very important to budget to zero so that you know where all of your money is going. So if a budget is a plan for your money, so we have a forecast, and then we have an actual, which I would also call our zero-based budget. So in a forecast, you do not know you don't know what you can spend. right? You don't know what you can spend because you haven't accounted for all of the money. In an actual budget, you know what you can spend. Because you only budget what the money you have. Both of these kinds of budgets have a very important place in your finances. Okay, so if you don't know what you're spending, you don't know how to budget. So when you go to make your budget, the first thing that you want to do is you want to get, let me start a new page. I think we're going to come back to this. So when you make your budget, the first thing you need to do is you need to know how much are you bringing in. So you need to know that, but we typically won't do anything with that until a little bit later. But you need to know what your income is. Okay, whatever sources you have, whether you're a paid employee, a contract employee, and we're going to do some videos where we go over that. I feel like there's a lot of shadow. I don't know if I can adjust this. But we're going to go over that. But you need to know what your income is. And number two, what you need to know is your living expenses. Okay, your situation, everyone's situation is different, right? We don't know, you know, and you have to decide this depending on what your situation is, but there's a few things you have to cover. You have to eat, right? You have to eat to live. And in order to live, you need shelter. Whether that's a rent payment, a mortgage payment, you know, if you're alternative and you live in your van, whatever it is, you need shelter. And with the shelter, you need heat. Typically heat, maybe cooling. So this would be like your gas and electric. These are the things that are essential for life. And other things that I would put in this category is you also, you need transportation. You know, you may live I live in an area where I have to have a car to go anywhere. I can't walk anywhere. I don't live in a neighborhood like that. So, you may need a car, and insurance. So like car, but this also maybe you need, like maybe ride share, or you rent a car for a couple hours. Maybe you take the bus or the train. So whatever your transportation is, because you need to be able to get to where you work. If you work at home, you're set. You could if you worked from home, and you could probably get by with food delivery, whatever. So transportation, and I'm gonna label this communication. So you would need maybe your cellular phone. And depending on your situation, you would need internet. But this one, you know, you could go to the library and get free internet. if you're really in a situation like that, you could, you know, if your phone plan covers it, use your phone as a hotspot. So internet is one of those that may or may not be necessary. But food, shelter, and then also clothing is a basic need. So food, shelter, clothing, transportation, communication. That is what you need to live. And so when you're making your budget, you need to like list out all of these things. What is my rent? You know, what is my electric bill? What's my phone bill? You need to list all those bills out and when they are due. Food, we're going to come back to because that one's a little bit different. And then we're going to kind of talk about when we talk about more variable things. And then number 3 would be like your other expenses. These are things that make life fun. So say you want to, you know, maybe entertainment. So maybe that's your, you know, going out to the movies, or it could be streaming services, or, you know, you don't need to do those things to live, but it's enjoyable to do, right? And so how you find out pretty much all of these things, except for food, you get bills for. You get a mortgage or rent payment. You get a bill for your heating and cooling. Maybe you have a car payment, insurance payment. You have a cell phone bill, your internet bill. Food and clothing, you really don't know what you spend on them. And so anything else, you have to look at your bank statements, or I want to just put statements. So, you want to log everything and write it down. You want to look at, I spent this much at the grocery store, and this much eating out, and, this much on clothing, this much on entertainment, going to the movies. So anything that you're spending on, and it could be, your debit card. So it could be your bank statement, your credit cards. What are you spending on your credit cards? What are you spending, like Cash App, Zelle, Venmo type thing? Anything like that. So you want to look at your statements when you're making your budget, and you want to see what you're spending. So maybe you decide, you're spending, $500 on groceries, and then you're spending $1,000 eating out, which is entirely doable, especially with today's prices. So basically you take all of these things and you kind of research that out. Once you know what all these things are, you then, and I have what I call the discovery sheets. You don't have to have these. You can do this on pen and paper, but I kind of come through with prompts for everything: your income, your bills, any kind of credit cards and debt payments that you have, subscriptions, any sinking funds that you want to see in the bank, things that you're saving for that stay in the bank, and then sinking funds in cash, things that you're frequently spend on. So like I put my groceries, my gas, and my spending money in number 6, or anything that you want to cash stuff in your envelopes. So you don't have to have these. You can also do this on a pen and paper, but you have to figure out where your money is going. And another thing I highly suggest when you're setting up a budget is I have to put everything on a calendar so I can actually visualize where it's going. So I'll get a calendar, get one from the Dollar Tree, doesn't matter, but mark your paydays. These are ours in this month. And then whenever your bills are due, mark where those bills are due. And then that'll show you, like, if you're in a situation where you're not bringing in enough money, which once we go through this process here, we're going to figure that out. But you have to know what you have to pay before the next payday. Then what you can do is you set up a a monthly budget or a forecast, because if you're in enough of a situation, you're not going, you know, maybe you don't have enough money to cover. So you kind of like enter your income here, but put all your bills in here. Oh, and I didn't even write down the amounts. But put all your bills in here, figure out how much they are, figure out how many times you get paid per month and divide it. But you use your calendar to make sure that you're not going to run out of money. So I know that if all else failed, my cash that I got back here on December 29th, I had to pay everything up through the 11th for sure. And then my check on the 12th, I had to make sure I covered all of these items, which 15 and 11.50, this was way more here than it was here. So we have to make sure that the cash is flowing properly. So if you take your monthly budget, right? You take this, you divide it in half, you get, now, if you're paid bi-weekly or you're paid twice a month, divide it in half. If you are paid weekly, you divide it by 4. If you are paid once a month, then this forecast kind of could serve as your budget, but it'll transfer over to your paycheck cash flow worksheet. So this is all about the cash flow. And so 1/2 month of our bills is $1,262.50. I had to take $112.50 out of our savings to make sure I covered all of these bills. And then I know that on our next paycheck, I'm going to save this amount so I can use it for the next time in February when we're short here. But this would be our zero-based budget. I know what came in and I counted for everything and I balanced it to 0. I won't be able to take our monthly budget and make it into like a real zero-based budget until I know what we bring in here on the 12th. And then if we have anything else going on here, like if we have overspending or an emergency happens or something unforeseen happens, hopefully we're going to get to the point where these sinking funds in the bank are going to cover that. So like, you know, we put $100 in the bank and saved it here for our auto repair. Well, I had to buy new wiper blades and they were like $65, but I had the money set aside in our sinking fund in the bank to cover it. So you have to do, going back here to this, what is a budget? A forecast. You have to do a forecast because you need to know what's going out. And if you know approximately, you know, I always kind of like lowball the income a little bit. So if we usually bring home like, you know, we usually bring home closer to 1,800. I estimated at 1750 or 1,700. I round down a little bit because there's always those little extra things. We're hourly employees, so our hours would fluctuate a little bit. Like there might have been a week that we were a little bit short. Typically not on my check, but like my husband only works, he's a nurse, so he works 3/12, so he works 36 hours a week. But if they're slow, they might send him home or he might work a little less. And there's some weeks where he might work a little more. So you never know exactly what you're going to get here unless you're a salaried employee and you're paid the same amount each payday. So you need to do this, and so then you can see, okay, once you write down all your expenses and you write down your groceries, you know, if you're only bringing in a certain amount of money and you're spending $2,000 a month between groceries and eating out, and you're not able to pay all your bills, well, then you use this to kind of like figure out where the problems in your budget are. And then you use this paycheck cash flow worksheet to make sure, oh, no, what I knocked over. But use this paycheck cash flow worksheet to make sure that you have enough money in that check to cover what you need to cover. And because you balance it out to zero, that becomes a zero-based budget. So both of these methods have a place in your day-to-day life with your budget. And so don't discount either one. Like you've got to know what's coming in. You've got to know that you're bringing in enough money to cover the money that's going out. You have to forecast that a little bit and look forward, so then that way you can make your zero-based budget work. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. You can get this whole pack. So I've got, let's see, these are like paycheck cash flow worksheets. You've got your monthly budget, which would be like your forecast. This is the calendar. And then there is what I call the discovery sheets. This is kind of where you write down what you spent in your categories on average a month. So like use a notebook, make a list of everything you spend. And typically what people do is they start writing it out. Like they just get their statements, they write down everything out of that statement, categorize it, and then a lot of times people get highlighters and say all of our food is green and all of our entertainment is blue. And then they just add up the corresponding colors, and then they can kind of use that to fill in these sheets. And then, you know, once you start doing the math and you start figuring out this is what I bring in a month, this is what I'm spending in a month, you can see where you're, you know, if you have a surplus or if you have a shortfall. I have to say that for the first time in a long time, and this is, some of this is in pencil, so it's hard to see because we're not quite done with January yet, but looking at our forecast, so like, you know, these I know because they've already passed. These are in pencil because they're coming up, but $7,089.08 is what we're forecasted to bring in. And if you can see, after we pay everything out, I kind of have this filled down. We actually have a surplus for the month of $167.50. Yeah, we have not had that in forever, especially like with last year and me going out on medical leave and having to cover stuff. We created additional debt on our credit cards because we couldn't live on the amount of money that we were bringing in. And so when you do your budget, you have to take a really hard, long look at it. And, you know, is being debt-free important to you? You know, do you want to own your home? What are your goals? Do you want to retire? What do you want to do, and what do you want to accomplish with your money? You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that you've got to be debt-free, but we've done it before, and it's a wonderful feeling when you get there, and it's a relief because you don't owe anything to anybody, and it's so freeing. And I mean, if you look, like we have a loan, and if you're new here, I always forget to say this, but if you're new here, welcome. And if you've been in the video this long with me rambling, thank you for sticking around. And if you've been around for a while, thank you so much for being here. But we have this loan payment, and if you're new, what had happened was we started our debt-free journey about 15 months ago. Our first hunk that we were paying off was about $52,000 in consumer credit card debt. And our minimum payments per month were about $2,000, and we were paying about $1,000 to $1,100 each month towards interest. So we were only reducing our principal by like $900 a month. And like we would get the debt paid down, like I'd be so excited because we'd get under 50 grand and we'd get down to 49 or 48,000 that we owed. And then something would happen, like, you know, like we've had more, I think in the past 15 months, we have spent like $8,000 or $10,000 on credit cards on car repairs because it's happened. So it was kind of like one of those things, like we would pay it down and then something would happen, we have to charge it right back up. And then the last thing that happens like in November was like that we noticed our roof was leaking on our home, and we literally couldn't take on another payment because we would literally have no wiggle room. We didn't have a lot to begin with. We would literally have none. And so what we did was we restructured our debt and took out a loan. We did take it out against the house, and we took out more money because we paid for our roof repair. So now we have a loan of $76,000. Since it's backed by the house, it's a 15-year payoff. We've like stopped using our cards and paid them all off. And now the actual payment on the loan is like, it's a little bit less than $750 a month. We choose to pay $1,500 a month because we want this loan paid off quicker. And we're going to keep throwing extra to the loan. But what that did was now that we've restructured our debt into a more manageable payment at an interest rate that's low enough for us to actually make some traction, we're now able to put money into these sinking funds. And so I'll read these off real quick because it might be a little far for you guys to read them. But our driver's license and plates is $30 a month. My husband's a nurse, so his professional licenses, we save $25 per month. Our vacation fund, right now we're saving $200 per month because we have to, we're going to a wedding in the spring. And so we want to make sure we've got our flight and accommodations, but we need to rent a car and have spending money. Our medical, we put $100 per month. Auto repair, we're putting $100 per month. Home repairs, like major home repairs, we're putting $100 per month. And this is all money that we're setting aside. Household expenses, we're setting aside $100 a month, and education $25 a month. So $680 we're setting aside per month to fund these things that happen in life. Like, okay, we put away $100 this month for auto repairs. And like I said, I had to buy new windshield wiper blades for $65. Normally that would have been a hit in our budget. Normally we would have had to charge that and then figure out how to pay it off. But now that we have that $100 sitting there, it's covering that cost. Yes, I'm not going to have, I'm only going to have, $35 left after I pay for those wiper blades. But the money was sitting there, and I'm still going to have that money left to roll into the next month. So this is what we're setting aside each month. And then just real quick on our regular budget, groceries, $600 a month. It's actually $150 per week or $300 per pay because we're paid bi-weekly. But I figure each month on 2 paychecks or a 4-week month. So at the end of the year, I know that there will be like an extra check, like we'll have to cover 2 weeks, and we're okay with that. But this is kind of like almost on like a bi-weekly mode. Gas for our cars, we spend $100 per week on gas. Hubby, wifey, date night. So each pay, he gets $100, I get $100, and our date night fund gets $100. And that's where we get that to spend, and that's our money that we get to spend however we want to spend it. Holidays, I put away $155. I have separate sinking funds set aside for those that are actually cash. And then our vacation fund is $45. When you decide what you're going to set aside in the bank and what you're going to set aside cash, my general rule of thumb is that I use cash for things I'm going to spend on frequently. So we buy groceries every week. We get gas every week. We have our personal spending money. And then also what I put in here is like our holiday fund. I do better if I save for the holidays in cash. Sometimes if I look into our financial software and I say, oh, this is for Christmas, but that's in December and it's only January, sometimes I'm tempted to steal from that. So that's why I pull that out and save it cash. And I would save anything cash. One, I mean, as long as you're comfortable having cash in your home. And two, as long as you're, you don't, pull it out and spend it, the cash. Like I find it incredibly satisfying to see this cash binder fill up, right? So I save Easter. I find it satisfying to color this in, to do the savings challenge that we have spending money for Easter. Same with like 4th of July. So like our Easter fund, I started, well, I have to contribute in February and March. So I started April of last year with our first one, and we've now saved all of our months, and now this is January's money. We'll contribute in February, and then we'll contribute in March, and then it'll be done. 4th of July, I started in, I think, July of last year. Or 6, 7, maybe I started in August of last year. Halloween, again, October, or November, December, January. So these are ones that I'll leave to roll over from year to year. Thanksgiving fund, December and January. Christmas, I start that one in January. We'll go the whole year. But I'm saving $100 per month for Christmas. And then New Year is $30 a month. And then this is our vacation savings money. So I enjoy doing the savings challenges, coloring in our challenges, and saving this cash. But I don't want a ton of cash in the home, so that's why I do leave some in the bank as well. I hope this makes sense. What I really wanted to stress the importance of, it is important to look at what you bring in and what goes out on a monthly basis, so then you can make smart financial decisions with your money, with your forecast. Say, okay, I'm forecasting this is going to happen, and then each payday, as long as you're not a month ahead, each payday you're going to have to cash flow until your next payday. And so what I do is I take a half month of bills, make sure that's covered, and a half month on my loan and make sure that's covered. And then I wrote down, we actually set aside extra money for the loan because I budget $3,500 per paycheck. So we had like $89.08 extra. Bring this closer so you can see it. So we had $89.09 extra. So I was able to put $56.58 to our loan. And I put something extra somewhere else. I forget where. Maybe vacation money. But we were able to set the extra aside, which was really nice. And hopefully it'll help us pay off our loan faster. And then I think I don't have anything set up yet for next month or for next paycheck. So we'll do that together. In our next video will be our next budgeting video. So again, both ways to budget, your forecasting and then your actual zero-based budget, because like I do my zero-based budget by paycheck. Both of these ways will help you in your budgeting journey and help you make good financial decisions. One of the flaws that I found with software, and I've never used Every Dollar. It's been a long time since I used like Quicken or I think Mint, and I think Mint is going away. But what they would do is they would say, what do you expect to make this month? And I'd say, well, I expect to make this, and I expect my husband to make this. And I was salaried at the time, so my salary was stable. But he was at a job where he would either anticipate overtime or anticipate working hours, because like the beginning of the week was very busy for them. And then they would call him and they would cancel him the end of the week. So he wasn't actually getting like a full 40-hour paycheck like he should have been. And so when Mint said, or Microsoft Money, that was another one, Microsoft Money, Mint, Quicken, those are all older programs. I use a different one now. I use one called YNAB, where you need a budget, which is a zero-based budgeting. Budgeting didn't make sense till I got into YNAB. But it's able, I didn't make what I thought I was going to make, so now where do I cut? And so when I make my forecast, it's a general plan, but that's why I go through the cash flow worksheet to make sure that we are bringing in what we need to bring in. If you have a variable income, if your hours at your job aren't steady, if maybe you're a contractor or you're a freelancer, like I used to sell real estate, my income was not steady at all. You know, one month it was like crazy busy, and then the next month, like literally didn't have anything if I didn't have a closing. So I've kind of been paid every way. I've been paid, I haven't been paid monthly, but I've been paid bi-weekly, which is what I prefer. I've been paid twice a month. I've been paid weekly. And I've also been like a contract employee, just making a variable income. So we're going to go over like how to budget all those things. Since we get paid bi-weekly, I tend to budget everything bi-weekly, but we're going to do a couple of videos where we have other pay methods. If you have any questions about this, please leave a comment. I love your comments. They're definitely make me think. And then if there's any topics that you would like me to cover, I would love to cover them with you. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you've been around for a while, I hope this helps you. And helps with kind of like our methodology. Like I said, I've got a list of topics to do some coffee chats with. And we're going to get there. 2024, we're going to do it. We're going to get there. And if anybody has a budget they want me to go over with them just to kind of see, I'd be more than happy to do that too and keep it anonymous. So that's all we have for today for our coffee chat, or for my case, my chamomile tea chat. And I want to, again, thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video.